Hi there, this is Jama Malmi. Thanks for joining me today. I am turning some of my alcohol ink backgrounds that I made in a previous video into cards today. And I will link below my video where I made the alcohol ink backgrounds on glossy photo paper. So today I'm turning them into cards, and I'm going to show you how to adhere a detailed die cut in multiple ways using various adhesives. And the first one I'm using is the Stick It, which is basically a sheet of sticky paper. It's thin enough that once you adhere it to the back of your cardstock, you can run it right through the die cut machine with your die, and it cuts through both layers just fine. This was one of my favorite ways to adhere the die. It was probably the least time consuming, but the Stick It product, it's not expensive, but it is a more expensive way to do it. But it basically creates a sticker. You could use a large Xyron to create a sticker with the die cuts, and that would work as well, but I don't have that. So this die cut, it says a big thank you. It's from close to my heart, and it is now retired, I believe, but it's still available. So it is one of my favorite dies because it's big and it makes a big statement, and it looks so cool in just black on the alcohol inked background. And you can use it on a patterned paper or anything else as well. I find that it looks best when you leave just a little border like I did around the edge of the die cut and then mount it onto your card base, because it's not as big as a full A2 card base. On all the cards that I'm making today, I'm doing 2 layers of the die cut stacked right on top of each other. I found that the added dimension really makes a big difference in the finished product. I also added a die cut heart in the middle of each of those little hearts. And the way I did that is I just stuck a little scrap of paper, in this case it was silver glitter paper, just under the heart portion of the die and ran it through my die cut machine. So I didn't cut the whole die out, just the heart. And you'll see that I did various colors on all of these cards. I added my adhesive right at the very edge of the card, of that piece, so that it wouldn't curl up around the edges at all, because the paper is just slightly warped from the alcohol inking. I did stack all of the alcohol papers once I was finished underneath a heavy book to flatten them out, and that did work pretty well. So the second way I'm adhering this detailed die cut is with the Ranger Matte Multimedium. And I used the matte because I didn't want it to seep out and be glossy. There is, close to my heart, liquid glass, which I really like and is a strong adhesive, but if it seeped out a little bit, it would have been shiny, and I didn't want that. So I used the Ranger Matte Multimedium for this. And then I adhered 2 layers and adhered it to the card base the same way. I used a red heart for the center of this, sort of as a contrasting color, and liked how that looked. And then I'm going to add a little bit of gold shimmer brush to just the heart, and I love the way that this looks. The shimmer brush is a very fine glitter that is applied through the brush tip, and it adds a very subtle, beautiful shine. Now, the third way I'm going to adhere these is with this Elmer's Craft Bond, and I did not like this method. Maybe it's because that spray adhesive is a little bit old, I'm not sure, or it didn't like the glossy coating of the cards, but they adhered to the die cuts adhered to each other okay, but I ended up peeling that off and using a different adhesive when I was finished. And I also sprayed it in a box first, in a well-ventilated area. So maybe I let it dry too long, I don't know, but I didn't like that method. And now here I'm using all of those little thin strips that I trimmed off around the edges of my die cut from the alcohol papers. I didn't want to waste any of that beautiful alcohol paper, so I'm using a fourth method of adhering, a glue pen, and this worked really well for these tiny strips to get them placed just right. Now you see that last piece, I joined the two in the middle, and I'm going to be covering that up with a little punched butterfly. I stamped that stamp in archival black ink before I realized that I was going to use alcohol markers, but I only used a little bit of detail with the alcohol markers, so it ended up being okay. It's not an alcohol safe ink, so I was just really careful when I colored. Thankfully, the Shin Hand Touch alcohol markers have a very thin, pointy tip, so it was easy to work around those lines. So I just chose a few colors that went with the alcohol paper that I used and colored in those little splatters on the stamp set. This stamp unfortunately is retired now because I made this video a while ago, so I apologize for that, but it's from close to my heart. Next, I took these butterflies, which I've had sitting in my die cut drawer for quite a while. They're punched with a Martha Stewart butterfly punch a long time ago, and they were just the right colors I needed, so I grabbed those and I wanted to make them this one a little bit darker and have some depth. So I started coloring it the outside with the dark marker, and it ended up being too dark. But once I turned it over and then just colored over the whole thing with the lighter marker, I liked that look. It showed the dark just a little bit from the other side. And then I coated the whole butterfly with the clear shimmer brush, which added a really beautiful subtle shine. I paired it with a butterfly that was punched out of silver glitter paper and adhered them both together. The shimmer brush made the butterfly kind of wet, and the alcohol markers did too, so I ended up drying it with a heat tool, which made it a little bit kind of curly and warped, which I really liked that look because that's, a butterfly is kind of whimsical. So I liked how that looked. I used a glue dot between the two butterflies and to mount it to the paper, and then added a little bit more shimmer and added some shimmer on top of those little splatters where the alcohol ink was, and that completed that clean and simple card. I just love how the alcohol ink stripes shine. Lastly, for this card, I decided to coat the entire top of the die cut with shimmer brush to make it all shiny. And then I used one of the other methods I showed to adhere it to the card. So here are all of my finished cards. I still have some more alcohol ink backgrounds that I need to turn into cards, but I was really happy with how these turned out. I put them underneath my Cuttlebug plates just to get them really flattened out again. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope that you will subscribe. I also linked the products that I used below, so you can go check those out. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a great day.